Okay, so today we have created a lesson on cells found in living organisms aimed for Year 6 students. We have approached this task as if it's the students' first lesson learning about cells. And this lesson has been designed to be achievable for all students, including those from low SES backgrounds to those with high SES backgrounds. So this is our VIC curriculum. It's aimed for Year 6 students, and it's under the umbrella of science, science understanding, and then biological science. So it states that living things have structural features and adaptations that help them to survive in their environment. And the growth and survival of living things are affected by the physical conditions of their environment. And this is our cross-curriculum part of the VIC curriculum. So again, aimed for Year 6 students, and this is under the technologies. So it's digital technologies and then data information. So the content descriptor is acquire, store, and validate different types of data and use a range of software to interpret and visualize data to create information. So, and then it's under that, it says using data visualization software to help with interpreting trends, for example, uploading data to a web application and building a visualization of the data. This curriculum topic of technology we used as our cross-curriculum, obviously, and this will be incorporated using the videos in our lesson and the Mentimeter. So this is our learning intention. So it states that the students are learning about the structure and the function of cells and all the different types of cells. So this is what we want to ensure all students know what they are going to learn in the lesson. All right, so this is our success criteria, which states that the students will actively participate in the task. They can identify correctly where different cells are on the human body, can identify the correct structure of the cell and successfully label their model, and can apply their understanding to create and label a cell. So we have included the success criteria as part of our slide, and we would show this to the Year 6 students. It's important for the students to know and understand the goal that they are working to achieve in order to be successful. And goal setting is a high impact teaching strategy, so HITS, and it states that goals should be clear so students know what they are intended to achieve and is essential for assessment. And this is the rationale which I just stated about HITS. This is the science skills that the students will grasp. So science skills are needed for students to learn how to use scientific reasoning and their critical thinking to further develop their understanding of science. Students will use the science skills of asking questions. So they will ask the appropriate questions in relation to the content that is being learnt. They will interpreting and communicating. So when interpreting, they'll interpret the function, the purpose and structure of cells. And then there'll be a group discussion before and after the main activity, which is part of the communications part. And then you've got the evaluation, which is just the students reflecting on their main activity and how successful they were. So this is our scientific literate citizens. So our activity is supportive of young learners beyond the primary school level as it prepares them to become scientific literate citizens. So in order to become a scientific literate citizen, a child is required to have knowledge of the important and enduring scientific concepts and have an understanding of science and its relationship with the society. So our lesson supports this statement as students are exposed to different ideas outlined in this slide, where teachers are prompted to align with the general capabilities. So whether that's literacy or numeracy, etc. So this is the learning outcomes for the students. So they at the end of the lesson, they'll have the basic knowledge and understanding of human cells. They'll know what cells are, what they do for the human body, and the different types of cells.
This is an opening kind of activity that we would do with the Year 6s to get them started. So basically, to explain what Mentimeter is, it is a website where a teacher can host a Mentimeter game, if you will, and students can log on using the teacher's code and then put in their usernames. And then there might be a question or prompt that the teacher might have, like what are cells, or just cells in general. And the students are just to write in any words that they can think of that relate to cells. And the more times that word is put in, the larger it becomes, like in the picture on the top right-hand corner. So the use of Mentimeter helps promote relevant vocabulary and keywords. Students can make connections between relevant scientific concepts. It promotes collaboration as a class, exposes students to new ideas, and free of embarrassment and no risk of failure. So basically it won't, any words that you put on, it won't say, oh, this student put on that word. So there's no really right or wrong answer. So the rationale for that would be, one, it's cross-curricular, so the use of technology to collect data. That's a perfect example because it's using technology to collect data, and as that word gets put in more times by the student, it gets bigger. And also another rationale for that would be assessment for learning. So gathering evidence about students' knowledge for future teaching. So this would be a basic kind of rundown on what students already know about the topic. So as a teacher, I could look at this and say, oh, actually my students know quite a lot, or maybe they don't know quite a lot. So these are some things that we need to work off based off an observation. Beautiful. So the next slide. Then we have a YouTube video. So we would kind of use this as our hook. So I have a quote here that says, learning and information processing are influenced by emotion. Therefore, a heightened response to stimuli play a role in learning. So basically what that means is if a child is stimulated and has emotion towards a certain stimuli, they are more likely to remember and retain that information. So the incorporation of a video in the beginning of a lesson is an effective pedagogical strategy known as a hook, which is designed as a tool to increase student engagement. Hooks can take many forms, such as the use of games, pictures, videos, etc. So like I said before, the Mentimeter probably could be another version of a hook. Beautiful. And we would of course play that video for the students. So next we have the safety considerations, which are obviously very important to put in our slides, which would be presented to our year sixes before we would begin our activities. These are also outlined in the lesson plan. So here we have a few, I won't read them, but you can pause and have a read if you wish to. Then we have slide 6. So this is just a content slide which we could present to the students. Again, you can pause and have a read if you wish. Rationale. So here we have our rationale for our content slides. So content slides provide students with the appropriate background knowledge needed to further develop their understanding of biological science curriculum. These slides specifically relate to the explicit teaching section of the high impact teaching strategies. So this is just explicit teaching content. The key elements of this section of HITS include relevant content according to the curriculum and new content being explicitly introduced and explored. So why do we need cells? Here is another content slide where the teacher would read the slide to the student. Again, another example of explicit teaching. So what are cells made up of? This is another content heavy slide, but this time we have included a diagram to aid the written content that goes with it. As you can see, the written part of the slide has been broken into smaller sentences that are more easier for students to kind of absorb if they're broken down into the parts. It's not just one big slab of information. So the next slide, and then we have the rationale. So in previous slides, we see an example of differentiation through the use of a picture or diagram as an aid in supporting those learners who are visual learners and retain information through pictures rather than just the written word. So like we talked about before with emotional learners, if a child feels an emotion towards a picture, prompt, or a video, they're more likely to retain that information. Here we also highlight some key scientific terms which are relevant to the biological science curriculum. So again, just content that students just need to learn in order to meet success criteria for curriculum.